Hi, my name is Aiden. This is just a quick tutorial on how to use my submission code for this project so that you can test it and see what it does. So first, this is what you'll get when you download from the GitHub that I linked to my submission. I added instructions on how to install all the dependencies with requirements, so make sure you do that before you proceed to this. But once you have those all installed, this is what you'll have. So the first thing we can do is launch a single document interface. And this just lets you point to where the files are you want to be analyzed. And then after this, it's pretty much automatic. You just have to tell it what to analyze first. So go in here. This is just where I have it downloaded. So the first thing you point to is the OCR results. And the second thing is you have to give it that matching PDF. The third thing is you give it a folder. So actually, I'll do this and then I'll put it in a folder called example, and it'll make that folder. Then make sure it found those files, and then it'll convert the PDF to images. And this could be pretty easily configured to just do full folders instead of just one document to make it even more automatic. But just for demonstration purposes, I think this is good. So that's all done. Now all the other programs know where those files are. So we can just close this, and then we have all of our PDF to image conversions done because those will be needed by the other programs. So now we can actually analyze it and look for errors and give the scores we need to give. So we'll generate the text report first. So this will take like 2 or 3 minutes for this document. So I'll cut back to when it's done, but it'll tell you what it's going through, so you know it's not broke. So I will cut back in about 2 minutes when this is almost done to show you how to view the report, and then also use the text viewer to see all of the details. Okay, so this is about to finish up here. Last 100 or so words it has to analyze. So that took about 2.5 minutes. So once that's done, this is going to generate a report and get all the human intervention scores and put those in the report. And then basically now we'll know for each word and each section of words, the human intervention score, which I talked about in my report, but tells us how likely it is that a human needs to intervene. It's kind of a measure of like how reasonable would it be to expect the OCR to read a given word or section correctly. And if it isn't a reasonable thing to suspect, there would be a very high human intervention score. So here's the folder we made at the beginning. So with this single document interface, there's data, there's all the pages that are images now. And then there's the text report, which is what we're interested in. So so the one thing to note is you can kind of tune how the sections are generated if you want it to prioritize making them small or big. Right now, how I have it tuned is it'll kind of make them probably bigger than they should be. So see, there's like separate sections here, but this one probably be nicer if it was smaller sections, but that's pretty easy to tune with just changing some numbers. But here gives you a list of all the human intervention scores for each section. And then when we want to see it more granularly, we can look at the text viewer interface I made. But this is just like the summary report, which could be useful depending on your use. So it sees like this main section is 8. And I know these aren't like numbered 1 through 5. I meant to change that, but I didn't. So because this is all type rated, most of these words are actually fine. So section 8 is 3. So there might be a couple words in there that need human intervention, but for the most part, it's fine. Because it put these words in their own section for some reason, that actually makes the example a bit better. So we see 84, section 84, which is just this one word, kind of shows that's really high. That's the highest it can be. So that shows that it's pretty likely that needs human intervention, or at least I'm going to double check that that's the right word, because it's likely the OCR could have got it wrong, or it's reasonable to suspect the OCR got it wrong. So that for everything. Has a section for the map, but there's not really words on it, so that doesn't mean anything. So again, most of these are 0 because it's type rated and it's not smudgy type rated. There's some that are type rated that I've seen, but they're pretty smudgy, and that'll show up here as high human intervention score. But most of these are fine. The one interesting part of this example is the signatures, because signatures can be hard to read, and that gets reflected here. And we'll see in the text viewer, but this section 8, that one, is probably due to these signatures because everything else looks good. So this is just the summary report, and it gives it in each section. And again, you can tune the sections. Ideally, this would actually be one section, and then this would be another. But that just depends how you tune it, and it can be a little finicky between documents. But the more interesting part is if you actually go to the granular view, which is the text viewer. So the document, this gives you like the summary, but this will launch in a second. If you actually want to see all the scores and metrics for every word, including the final score, you can go to this. So right here, this is just this word, very low word intervention score. So this divides it between word and section. What you were seeing on that was the section human intervention score. 2.5, that's still pretty low. It thinks it's a little bit smudged. Very minorly smudged, so that's not 0. But if you look at this, for example, that's 100 because it actually did get it right, but it still shows that it would be unreasonable to expect that the OCR got that perfect because of how faded it is. And you can see in the fade score that it gave it a 1, which is the highest fade it can get. So, which makes sense. That does look very faded, and you would think that if it's that faded, it would be very hard for the OCR reader to read. So that's why it gives it such a high score. And then, yeah, most of these are good. You'll see a little bit of smudge and fade in some of these, but they're low, and if the confidence is high, the intervention score is still going to be low. But if we go to the signature, which is one of these pages, there we go. So like this guy right here, that is not the easiest word to read because it's in cursive. And as you can see, it does say it's a little smudged and a little faded. And the confidence isn't super high. So the word intervention score is 30, which isn't huge, but it's definitely something to look out for. And then this one, I think, yeah, this one's even worse, where it's very faded according to our metrics. And the confidence is even lower. So it's thinking that's probably something someone should at least double check. And I'm not even sure if that's right or wrong or not, because I can't read the signature as well, but that's probably why it should be double checked. So those are the two things you can do for text analysis, and that'll analyze every word in the document and tell you that's human intervention score. The other thing is the structural table analysis. So I'll click that, and that'll generate a table report. The text was already analyzed for any table in the other program. So this just analyzes the structure. So I'll let this run. This also takes a couple minutes because it's analyzing the structure. Depending on how many tables, it can actually take a few more minutes than the text analysis, but I'll cut back to whenever we're done with this. Okay, so that is done generating. So we have the report now. That took, I want to say, 3 minutes, maybe 4. So now we'll have the table report. And this has 2 different things. So actually, let me pull it up. There we go, table report. So this actually shows you, nice part about this. So whatever the amount of tables there is, there'll be double the pages in this. So this is a little bit longer of a summary, but I think it's worth it. So this gives you the table that the OCR thinks it is on the first page, and then the next page gives you the errors we think we saw. So the first one is the bounding box errors. This is probably the more useful one, or at least more consistently useful. So this will tell you basically if a cell of the table is split across multiple areas here. I'm probably not explaining that well. I explained it better in my report. but you'll see here. So like, this is a good example. So this is a bounding box error because here we have equipment. So this is what the OCR thinks it is. This here, and then we have 2 cells here and an empty cell here. And that's basically saying here that these 2 correspond to just one thing here. And there's this empty cell here. So there's a bounding box error where something is spanning an amount of cells that it shouldn't. So you could see that like this in theory would be in the same box, and then these 2 wouldn't even exist. Maybe this one would exist. That wouldn't be bad if you called that an empty cell, but these shouldn't be split. And then this one has no word split errors. This one, basically what it'll do is if you have, it guesses where the column should be. Sometimes it guesses wrong. So that's a little harder to tune, but you can. And if in the table there are words, if in the image of the table there's words in the same column, but they get split across multiple ones here, it's going to say there's an error. So this one's fine. Honestly, for this document, the word split errors don't mean much. That's more contingent on, yeah, so this is actually kind of an error, but that's why I say this is probably the less useful one, but sometimes it does tell you interesting things. I'll find another bounding box error. Yeah, so this one's good. So as you can see, like there's all of these cells here that are just empty, and then it's saying basically these cells got merged into one here. So there's a bunch of bounding box errors there, and it's going to flag that. And then again, it's not going to tell you how to fix it, but it's, if you see a bunch of bounding box errors like that, it's a pretty good indication that a human might need to intervene. And then there's like this table, for example, though, is the words aren't right, but that will come in the word analysis. But these 2 actually do seem to correlate. And this actually probably shouldn't be a table, but it's a good example of if it was supposed to be a table, something that would work. And this one, yeah, this one actually looks like it's good too. So it read this one right. The cells are all, this just looks right. It's all filled in. And there's, as you can see, there's no errors here. So that is the table report. It'll give that for every table. And that gives you a good indication of if there's a structural problem in the table. And it's not comprehensive. There are always weird structural problems because these tables are tricky. But if you do see a table that has a lot of these errors, it's a good thing to indicate to someone, hey, maybe you should at least look at this one. So that is just a summary of how to use all of this, or to see the reports, what the reports tell you. I said a lot of that in my report, but sometimes it's good to just show. So in case you guys want to test it yourself. So I believe that I ran all the programs, or all the bash files, yeah. And then all of this other stuff is just the code. In theory, I should have probably separated those into a different folder, but this is all the supporting code that you can look through. It's probably not the cleanest code, but that's supporting code you can look through to see how all of that works. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you.